Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business stories and dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Lindzi Shanks to the show. Lindzi is the co-founder of XO Marshmallow, based out of Chicago. XO Marshmallow is a gourmet marshmallow e-commerce company which creates innovative and delicious marshmallow treats. And today I'm going to ask Lindzi a few questions about her entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that she has used to start and grow her business. Now, before we dive into the interview, if you enjoyed this kind of content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And for more interviews like this, please visit treptalks.com. And with that, Lindsay, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today at Trep Talks. Really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So very, very interesting business. And I read your story a little bit on your website, and it seems like you started with $200 and you build, it seems like a pretty big business. So could you share a little bit about your early days? How did you come up with the idea? And, did you really dream of building a big company?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I like to say our whole original story is a lot of kismet, right? So she actually started making marshmallows her last year of law school. She is one of five and was looking for a Christmas gift on a poor law student budget. She found one of those classic Pinterest recipes that's a hot cocoa in a jar with marshmallows. And at the end of the recipe, it said, try making your own marshmallows. And she did, and people loved them. And she kind of put it in the back of her mind. Fast forward to her law school graduation, she realized, spoiler, she did not want to be a lawyer. And
Wow.
instead, kind of started working at a cafe, playing around with this idea of marshmallows in her spare time while she was figuring out her next step in life. I was on the other side of Chicago going through something very similar. I was completing my master's degree from the University of Chicago in psychology and realized I did not want to get a PhD and be a professor, which was my original dream. Instead, I had started a clothing store while I was in undergrad and decided to pursue that full time. I ended up winning a pop up shop in downtown Chicago that was free for the holiday season and posted to my Instagram account that I was hiring seasonal helpers. Kat just so happened to find me through Instagram, applied for the job, and in her interview to come work for me, mentioned that she liked to make marshmallows. I was like, well, that's great. I make coffee mugs. So why don't we sell the marshmallows in my store with the mugs and see what happens?
Hmm.
At the end of the pop up shop, the marshmallow mug combination was the number one best selling item. And I asked Kat, I was like, hey, I think there's something here. Do you want to become business partners? To which she promptly said no. Now, luckily, the story isn't in there. She and I ended up talking it through and decided we wanted this to be kind of low lift just in case one of us wanted to bail out. I mean, keep in mind at that point, we had only known each other for 2 months. So we decided to each put $100 in a bank account and say, let's see if this works out. 2 weeks later, I had our website up and running, and December of this year will be our 10-year anniversary. So we went from little marshmallows in a mug and $200 total to we are a multi seven figure business. And I don't think either of us truly ever expected it would get this big.
I mean, you must be a real visionary for being able to see the potential because even when you're thinking about like coffee and marshmallows, like a regular person wouldn't think an e-commerce business right away. Like, was your original vision to sell like locally or because I believe you had started a cafe also, right? So to be able to see like even in 2014, 2015, I believe that's when you started. To be able to see an e-commerce business out of it, like that's really visionary.
Thank you. What I really understood about the XO Marshmallow brand at that time is I saw the potential it had for growth through social media. So I already had an understanding of e-commerce because that's how I was running my original clothing store before I had my pop-up shop. Everything was e-commerce. So I understood that direct consumer, ship directly to the consumer model. what I saw with XO was the potential for something that was very Instagrammable, especially at that time when, something being Instagrammable was really whether or not something would sell. What I didn't have is really a culinary understanding. We always joke around that, like, at that time, the closest thing to baking I got was like heating up pizza rolls in the microwave. Luckily, Kat had all the baking experience and the knowledge, and I'm like, this tastes so delicious. If I can find a way through social media to capture how delicious that is visually to the consumer,
Hmm.
once we get them hooked, I know they're going to be a customer for life. And that's exactly what happened. We use social media, and this is still our strategy today. So we use social media to hook the customer in, and that lifetime value of the customer for us is so high because our product is so good, they keep coming back.
Yeah, and I went on your social media, right? Like on TikTok and Instagram, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's not just beautiful, it looks delicious. Like it makes you want to taste it, right? Um, can you talk a little bit about your products? I mean, the different kind of sweets that you're creating. I mean, it seems like um was there some innovation there as well? Like you're creating marshmallows in different forms, like with different mixtures and so forth. Um, are those kind of products available elsewhere as well, or like those the creations that you're creating, they're like, your innovations?
Well, it kind of depends on the product. So when we first started our business, keeping in mind that we've been in business for almost 10 years now, the idea of custom flavored marshmallows just wasn't a thing. So even doing something as simple as a champagne flavored marshmallow was innovative at the time. Now I kind of joke around that, like, I sneeze and there's 10 new marshmallow companies because it feels like everyone is kind of popping up and trying this new thing. The nice thing about that is we don't fear the competition. Instead, we see it as an opportunity to constantly keep moving that goalpost and create new innovative products. So, our original first line of products were our classic marshmallows. So, square marshmallows, different flavors. We try to even push the envelope with those flavors. Today, for example, one of my favorite marshmallows is our miso brown butter. So it's a little savory, a little sweet. It's not, the classic flavors that you see everywhere now, like cotton candy or birthday cake. We have those too, right? But we really continue to push the envelope with the innovative flavors. The two things that we have that you're really not seeing anywhere else, and I feel like is continuing to make us innovative, is our OMG. So it stands for Ooey Marshmallow Goodness. It's our version of marshmallow fluff. Think Ben and Jerry's meets a pint of marshmallow fluff. It's got different mix-ins, it's got cake, it's got brownie. It really depends on the flavor. And the idea is that you can eat it straight out of the pint as if it was ice cream.
Hmm.
Before that, there was only a plain vanilla available on the market shelves, and there really isn't anybody doing the innovative flavors that we do. The other are our chocolate covered treats. So we're known for they're called Oh Dough You Didn't. So it's edible cookie dough topped with marshmallow, dipped in chocolate. Those are sort of our innovative flavors that are really focused on nostalgia. So I am a like 1989, like 90s millennial baby. And so I love all of my after school snacks from when I was growing up. We really focus on nostalgia. And so, how can we take some of those nostalgic, innovative things and bring them into new, elevated things today? A great example of that is our Cosmallow brownie. So, I grew up eating cosmic brownies, which a lot of people are familiar with from the 90s. We took that concept and infused it with marshmallow. So,
Hmm.
this is a brownie stuffed with fudge, topped with marshmallow, dipped in chocolate with candies on top. So you get that nostalgic element that's familiar to you, but in a new and elevated way.
No, that's so interesting. Um, when you started out, um, how quickly did you? So you started your e-commerce website. Did the product start selling off right away, or did you have to? What kind of? How did you kind of launch the business?
Yeah, so we launched the business through social media, right? So we started posting to social back when Instagram was photos only. Um, Before we launched and let people know it was coming. luckily, we had a built-in mailing list of everyone who had come to the pop-up shop, who had seen the marshmallows during that 2-month period before we fully launched it. And we did see orders right away. I think we saw more orders than we expected to.
Wow.
From there, we ended up entering our product into a Chicago local award called the Red Eye Big Idea Awards. We ended up winning.
Hmm.
And so by winning that award, it gave us free advertising in the Chicago Tribune for the holiday season, right? So all of a sudden, we had the ability to actually put ads in a newspaper that we wouldn't have been able to do before.
Hmm.
So that allowed us to continue to market it. I would say the business really took off when we opened our cafe doors in June of 2017. That's when we
Wow.
started seeing so much press from the Today Show and Good Morning America and BuzzFeed. We started getting a lot of national attention for having the world's first marshmallow cafe.
Yeah, I did see a lot of press on your website also. But you said that you've now closed the cafe. So what was the reason behind that? You basically wanted to focus all your efforts on e-commerce because that was your big channel.
Yeah, of course. So when we first started the business, we got a lot of people asking, hey, where can I come try this in person, right? We were doing markets, farmers markets, pop-ups, whatnot. And a lot of people wanted to try it in person. We actually ended up running a Kickstarter because we were like, listen, if you guys want a marshmallow cafe, put your money where your mouth is. Let's see if you can get this funded. We ended up getting funded in 2 weeks. So we
Hmm.
said, okay, I guess we have to build a cafe now.
Hmm.
Ended up opening the cafe and saw a lot of success when we opened. That that changed in 2020.
Hmm.
So when COVID happened, Chicago was very strict in enforcing closures and everything like that. And so the cafe closed and e-commerce skyrocketed. So before COVID, our business was really growing steadily at the same pace for both channels, both
Hmm.
e-commerce and the cafe growing kind of in tandem. When COVID happened, the cafe went to zero. E-commerce grew 325% in 2020. And then it kept growing at that rate in 2021, 2022, 2023. While the cafe reopened, it recovered,
Hmm.
but it didn't continue to grow.
Hmm.
So when we decided to close the cafe in December of 2024, it had gotten to the point where the cafe was doing the same sort of sales numbers it did in 2019 versus e-commerce had just skyrocketed and had turned into a multi-seven-figure business. But anyone who's ever run a physical cafe will tell you the amount of energy that the cafe was taking from us was not proportional to the amount of income that it was bringing in. So we decided to close the cafe, and this year we're focusing not only on D2C e-commerce, but we are trying to branch out into national distribution, looking into getting into large grocery stores for the first time.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think post-COVID, the kind of the culture has also changed, right? People are now a lot more comfortable with e-commerce, and I think with all the work from home and everything, I think the foot traffic probably has slowed down. I'm very curious. So you're selling food product. Um, are there any challenges in are there any challenges with what your how fresh it can be over time? Are there any challenges with shipping food items, uh, related to freshness and those kind of things? Or this is kind of a different category where, it remains fresh for a longer period of time?
It does remain fresh for a longer period of time, but we're certainly not without our challenges, right? So, right now, our products typically have a shelf life of 4 months. That's great from a D2C perspective because something goes from here to the customer. They've got several months before they even need to eat it, knowing that it's going to be fine when it arrives to their door. This year, now that we're looking to get into grocery store, that minimum is a year shelf life that's required to get on a grocery store shelf. Luckily, we have cracked that code in getting it to a year. It's going to be a packaging change that's happening mid this year that will allow us to extend the shelf life of the product. The biggest issue we run into and the biggest challenge is that marshmallows melt.
Mm.
So when we are shipping during cooler months, so for example, we're in Chicago, it's March, it's cold.
Mm.
So sending marshmallows from here to Texas, not a problem. When August hits and here is 95 degrees and Texas is 114 degrees, now you have bigger challenges.
Mm.
So we do ship with ice packs during the summer months. Obviously, that does add an additional cost. It cuts into our profit. We have made the decision to not pass that cost on to the customer. We instead eat that cost, which means during the summer months, our profitability shrinks,
Mm.
right? And we still, while I would say 95% of the orders arrive to the customers successfully,
Mm.
there are sometimes still issues. A box gets left on a UPS truck a day late. It sits on a customer's front porch and it's 120 degrees outside. Products melt, right? But we always do everything we can to make it right. So the biggest challenge we find is in scaling up our manufacturing. So what we do is custom. When
Mm.
people think of marshmallows, they think of the cylindrical, puffy, gross bag of boring, right?
Mm.
So all the manufacturing equipment that exists in the world of marshmallows is for those products.
Mm.
The manufacturing equipment for what we do doesn't exist. So we're
Mm.
having to custom build all of those manufacturing things from the ground up. Though between that and things shipping, those are definitely or things melting, those are definitely our biggest challenges.
So to me, it seems like you going in the direction of distributing through, I guess, local stores and so forth is probably a better long-term strategy, which is, maybe helps you to ship locally, like, Uber Eats style. Somebody wants this dessert and they basically order it locally, so there's less chances of melting. But it seems like you're kind of mitigating some of these shipping risks. I mean, are you shipping like closer to the customer? Like, do you have different distribution centers, or are you kind of shipping like from one place throughout the US?
Everything here in Chicago.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, one thing to mitigate, yeah, but I guess then you'll have the challenge of warehousing. Like if you're creating in bulk and distributing it from local or and multiple distribution centers, you have to, I think that increases the complexity also.
Yeah, and a lot of distribution centers and 3PLs don't do ice packs. So
Okay.
even if you're shipping locally within Texas, right? Let's say you've got a distribution center in Dallas and the marshmallow has to make it from Dallas to Houston. It's still really hot, and so you're still going to need to have an ice pack, even though it's only going to take a day or two. And so a lot of 3PLs and national distributors don't do ice packs. That is sort of the long-term vision for getting into grocery store, not locally, but nationally. So that way, if you are in Texas and it's 104 degrees, you can walk to your local, Whole Foods, Target, Walmart, et cetera, and pick up our products in person. Our biggest complaint we get from customers is the cost of shipping. And unfortunately, we see every single year USPS, FedEx, UPS, they are all raising their shipping rates,
Mm.
right? And so every year the shipping rate goes up. It's to a point now where it costs as much as a box of marshmallows to ship a single box of marshmallows. And that's
Okay.
difficult for people to wrap their heads around, understandably, right? And so if the biggest barrier for people to place an order is the cost of shipping, well, we'll just bring the product closer to them, right? Now you can pick it up in person versus having to wait for it in the mail.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense for sure. I mean, as you were talking about it, I was thinking, you were doing your education in psychology, but now you're like, you know, um, quite business oriented. Like, did you always recognize that you had an entrepreneurial mind, or you were kind of like entrepreneurially motivated?
Yeah, I always kind of joke around. So I went straight from grad school into this, and part of that's because I'm too pig-headed to work for anybody else. I mean, obviously, I had plenty of part-time jobs in high school and in college, but I think ultimately I realized that I like doing things my way. And so I think there is an entrepreneurial aspect to that. I also was definitely the kid who was constantly hustling. I had some sort of little business on the side since I was in like first grade. I mean, I would go to the store and buy up a bunch of candy and then have it on the playground and sell it for a profit. I learned how to scrapbook when I was in middle school and high school, and I would offer to like scrapbook people's pages for them. I constantly was looking for ways to make a dollar. And it took me a long time after having my first business to realize that there were all these little hints in my childhood, basically saying, like, you're going to be an entrepreneur. Um, but I've always really enjoyed the way people think. And so for me, that was psychology. And I wasn't interested in being a psychologist. I was interested in being a research professor and studying more about social psychology and the way people think. And really, now that I do marketing and business, it's really not that different if you think about it. Like my job is to think about how the customer thinks and what content can I create for them that's going to evoke the emotion that we're looking to create, which for us is joy, nostalgia, right? So I feel like I'm still using my degree.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely marketing is psychology, customer psychology. Um, do you see other ideas in the market? Like, do you get, um, I mean, obviously you're focused on your business so much, but do you see new e-com ideas for e-commerce that you're like, that would make a good idea, but then you're not able to pursue it because you're so much focused on this business?
100%. I actually have a working Google Drive folder of business ideas. And usually what happens is I get stuck at EXO. There's a problem I'm trying to fix, and all I can do is think of another business idea. So I
Hmm.
end up sitting down and creating the entire idea. I write a business plan for it, I design the logo for it, I put the brand deck together and everything. And then once that's flushed out of my mind, I can solve the problem for XO Marshmallow instead. But I do have a running document of future business ideas. So if we ever sell XO, or if there's an opportunity, if somebody comes in and there's like an outside CEO and I'm not as actively involved in the business, I think there's always going to be something I'm pursuing.
What is your criteria? Like I'm sure there must be a criteria that you look for in a like a potential successful business, right? What is, I mean, for this business, you said this has to be visually appealing, so it attracts people on social media and things like this. What are some of the other criteria that when you look at an idea or when something appeals to you, like the different points you're looking at, yes, this will make a good e-commerce business or a business in general.
Well, I always joke around now that I've learned so many things from XO. So I'm like, if I ever do another business, it won't be food. It
Yeah.
won't be anything with a shelf life. It won't be anything that melts.
Hmm.
And it won't be anything that I have to produce myself in-house. So those are sort of the lessons I learned from the business here that I'm like, the next business, I would have a 3PL, I would have an outside manufacturer or a co-packer. Um, I think people get so focused on margins at the time of like, let's do it in-house, that in the long term, it's easier, I think, to have those outside opportunities to be doing it for you. But I think for me, visually appealing is still that number one thing on the list. I just think if you have something that's so captivating to the customer, that's visually appealing, that's half your job, right? Half your job is convincing somebody to want to buy it. And people do things with their eyes. They make decisions with their eyes, and we're so connected to our phones and social media. And it's a great way to market things free through the power of social media. So it to me is a much lower lift if you have something that's visually appealing.
That is so true. Visually appealing story. I mean, these days, like whatever basically captures your attention, funny, interesting, entertaining. Um,
Exactly. And the reality is people don't buy products anymore. They buy people, right? So you have to have a brand with a good story because if you're just like corporation XYZ, like people don't care anymore. Who's the founder? What does the founder do? What is the background? How'd they get there? That's the journey people are interested now. Even if it becomes a massive company, they want to be able to point back and say, this started this way, right? And I was part of that original journey. And so I think, it's less so much about the product now as much as it is the people.
for sure. Now, you did mention that you are doing your own manufacturing, and a big challenge is like having those machines, equipment made. Um, what was, can you share a little bit about, did you have to hire consultants or, people or work with like people who work with these food equipment creation and these kind of things? Or like what was that process like for you to think about, I need to create this product and I'll need the machines that create it, but I don't know, if somebody has these machines or we're going to have to create new. Like, what was that process like, and how long did it take you for you to have those machines built?
Yeah, so the original process was a lot of me. It was a lot of me doing research, watching YouTube videos, trying to go down the rabbit hole of Google. I like to say I ended up getting my PhD from Google University, and kind of figuring out what it is that we needed. The thing that I finally started to realize, especially as we've grown and become less a cafe and more, we are a manufacturer, we are a marshmallow manufacturing facility, right? That it's hard for you to Google certain terms when you don't even know what it is that you're Googling. So we started doing a couple of things. The first is that we found trade shows that we could go to for these types of products. We're very lucky that Chicago is host to one of them. It's called Pack Expo. And
Mhm.
so we're able to go and look at manufacturing equipment and see, like, hey, does this work? Talk to the people, set up meetings afterwards. That's how we found some of our packaging machines now. And we actually just went through a process with a nonprofit here in Illinois called IMEC. It's the Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center. So we had applied for an automation grant with them and won. And basically, as part of that grant, they came to our space with all of the knowledge of manufacturing and helped us figure out, like, here are the things that we need from an automation perspective if this is the particular thing that is bottlenecking in our manufacturing process. Here's the equipment that you need to get. Okay, that equipment is too expensive. Here's how you can get that equipment cheaper. Or here's the thing that is, it has to be custom, so it's gonna be expensive. You can't get a used one because it's custom, right? And then they've helped us connect with other people. So I'd say, and this is something that I didn't realize really existed in a lot of different states, is I'd say if you can find some sort of manufacturing nonprofit that's local to your state, they have a lot of grants and they have a lot of people who are trying to bring more manufacturing in America. And
Mhm.
so they're trying to help you get the type of knowledge and equipment that you need.
Wow, very interesting.
I just need a
Um,
grant that pays for the equipment.
um, yeah, I mean, now Trump obviously wants to bring a lot of manufacturing, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot more opportunities in the US for sure. Um, are you, I mean, you're the chief marketing officer of your company. Do you have a marketing team? Do you work with agencies? Like, are you doing your own, like, how does marketing work in your business? And are you doing paid advertising as well?
Our marketing team is a department of one. It's
Okay.
me.
Okay.
I did have an assistant last year, and she was wonderful, but I realized I was still doing the majority of the marketing. And because I was doing it, because I love doing it, there just wasn't a lot of opportunity for her to grow. So decided to kind of take it back on myself. I know that that is super unrealistic for the majority of founders, but we don't work with agencies. I actually don't run any ads.
Hmm.
Everything we organic marketing. This actually is going to be the first year we probably start doing paid ads because we are looking for more national distribution. And as we get into grocery stores, we want to be able to do targeted ads for the local areas for those stores to let people know that we're in person. But the vast majority of the marketing we do is social media. It's me. I love it. I literally had somebody message me the other day because I also run all the social media on my personal account, in which I give the behind the scenes on what's going on. I'm actually recording this right now, so maybe
Hmm.
we'll see some of this video on my personal account. And I had somebody message me and say, "Hey, girl, what agency are you working with? Who's doing all your social?" I was like, "I don't know, it's me." She's like, "How are you not tired?" I was like, "I'm exhausted." I am exhausted, but I also love doing this. This is the thing, I don't know if you've ever heard of like zone of genius, but this
Yep.
is my zone of genius. This is the thing that marketing doesn't really always feel like work to me because I love
So,
doing it.
so I have to ask you, what is your, I think many people would be interested in what is your workflow and what are your favorite social media tools?
Yeah, so I use Notion. I love Notion. I use it to plan out my social media calendar, both for the EXO account and my personal account. I live and breathe by CapCut. It is
Hmm.
such a fantastic editing program. I like that I can do it both on my computer and on my phone. And my workflow is really, I am highest energy when I first get into work. So when I get here from 9 a.m. to 12, I really try not to put too many meetings in there. I try to let that be content creation time. I like that to be just high level thinking time as opposed to working in the business. So it's working on the business, not in the business.
Hmm.
And then I usually spend my afternoon in meetings, mainly because at that point I need to get up and walk. So if I'm in a meeting, I'm on a walking pad because I got to get my steps in.
Hmm.
Um, that's sort of my workflow. I have a little bit of ADHD, but I actually have an ADHD timer on my desk that allows me to hyper focus when I need to. And I find that that works really well for me.
So morning is kind of your most creative time, I'm, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, yeah. I love my mornings. I'm very fortunate that in the last year or two, I've really developed what I find to be a really good morning routine for me. I get up in the morning, I work out, then I have breakfast, then I journal, then I study Spanish, and then I end up coming into work. And then the first 3 hours for the day for me are really focused on content creation and creativity and business growth because I'm already riding such an endorphin high from working out and everything, and that works for me. After 1 o'clock, I'm so tired that it's hard for me to do sort of that high level thinking that
Hmm.
I try to do it early in the morning.
So I saw on your website that you're also shipping in other countries like Canada. I believe I saw UK, maybe others also. I would assume it becomes challenging as, to ship to other countries. As you mentioned, shipping is challenging and probably more expensive also. Um, do you ever think about franchising this idea or the, little cafes, or some sort of, way of having people take your idea and have their own like creation while you also get paid in the process?
Yeah, so franchising the cafe idea is something that we are actively discussing. So if anybody is interested or knows how to do franchising, hit me up.
Okay. But wouldn't that involve like the person who's like wants to create a store in Canada, wouldn't they need the machine to create these products?
No, no. So what we would do if we end up franchising is we would still manufacture everything and we
Okay.
would ship it to.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
Okay.
would start with primarily franchising in the US
Hmm.
and then expand it out into international markets.
Okay.
Because I think trying to do anything international right now in our political climate is going to be significantly challenging.
Yeah. Where do you see your business, like, what is your future vision for the business, let's say 5 years down the road or so? Do you still want to continue building this business? Do you see yourself hiring like someone else, a CEO who can run this business, and then you go create something different? Do you think about this, or is it right now you're completely focused on this, growing this business?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So right now I'm focused on growing the business as big as I possibly can and getting as much national distribution as possible. The reality is with the CPG world and the food and bev world, it's really difficult to get a business past a point if you're not part of a larger food organization. So
Okay.
our ultimate goal, likely within the next 3 to 5 years, is to be acquired by another food company and let them take it. Because the reality is, I love what I do, and I think I'm going to get this business even further than it is now. But I also deeply want this business to outlive me. And so I want to be able to eventually put it in the hands of a larger candy company or a larger food company that has the capital that we just don't have and that has the connections that we just don't have to just allow the business to grow and then move on to the next thing.
I
Check out
think
my
that,
goals and see what next.
yeah. Yeah, I think that that makes a lot of sense because what that company will be buying is probably your brand and the recipes. So I don't think that it will be a very challenging way to sell the business, right?
I hope not.
Yeah. Um, in every entrepreneur's journey, there's always failures, lessons learned. What has been for this business specifically, what has been like a one or two learning experience where, there was a mistake or a failure that where you said, it was a big learning lesson for you. What did you learn? What can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, I'd say what we've realized is that people are the biggest asset of your business. And that can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. So it's a good thing if you have the right people and the right positions to help move your business forward. But especially when we first started out and didn't really have the experience and we're really focused on the business was growing so quickly, we were less focused on culture and more focused on just getting the product out the door. We let people stay on far too long and people who should have been let go a long time ago. And it not only brought the business down, but it brought the culture down. And we ended up losing good people
Hmm.
who were affected by the toxicity of the bad people. So I'd say lesson learned for us is that our people are more important than literally anything else that we do. And if the people are right, the business soars. And if the people are wrong, it doesn't matter how good your product is, your culture is going to suffer and your business is going to suffer.
Yeah, that's such a great advice for sure. I've heard that from a lot of other entrepreneurs as well. Now I'm going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a word or a sentence or so. So the first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs and why?
So if you're, I'm going to give you two. So if
Okay.
you're a food business, do Cooking Up a Business. It's got so much great step-by-step information on how to start a business. But for entrepreneurs in general, I really love the book Start With Why. Because
Hmm.
if you don't really understand why it is that you're running the business and realization that it's not the product, it's the overall message behind what you're doing, you're going to get burnt out so fast and you're not going to want to do it. You have to be able to default back to your why when things are rough. So I definitely recommend that book.
Awesome. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
I feel like I continue to get excited about all the additional travel stuff that's coming out. So whether that is a new away bag or a new base bag, I'm really constantly excited to see what new things are coming out in the travel space.
Are you a big traveler? Do you love traveling? Yeah. Okay. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend or a productivity tip?
Yeah, so I know I've already talked about it, but I highly recommend Notion for anybody. It also connects to your Gmail calendar. Just the productivity flow on Notion, especially if you are someone who batches tasks like I do, it's just the workflow makes it really easy. And they have a free version too.
Yeah. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to or someone who inspires you?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar, but Tori Dunlap from her first 100K, she wrote a book called Financial Feminist, and it's actually now a book that we give to every single one of our employees when they start. I just love what she's doing in trying to make um, access to money, knowledge, and information to women accessible.
Final question. Best business advice that you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Honestly, I think I already kind of mentioned it, but at the end of the day, the best business advice I can give you is that your people are your most important asset. It's not your IP, it's not your product, it's not the money in your bank account. It is your people because they are the difference between whether or not your business succeeds.
For sure. Well, Lindzi, those were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for taking the time to join me today. What is the best way people can find and purchase your products?
Yeah, so you can find us online at xomarshmallow.com or follow us on social media at xo.marshmallow. You can also find me at lindzi.shanks. On my personal account, I tend to share sneak peeks and behind the scenes and new product drops before the business does.
Awesome. Well, Lindzi, thank you so much again. Really, really appreciate your time today. And thank you so much again for sharing your story and wish you all the very best.
Awesome. Thank you so much.